local and superordinate organization. And that's really what's left out of these discussions that you read about today, about what's the future of Congo, what is going on. And you didn't discuss, and we don't have a chance really to discuss here, the outside forces that are intimately involved in many things that are happening. The State Department, the CIA, and the French Sûreté and the Belgian Sûreté are very much involved. And also, as our colleague in Montreal, Alain Deneau, who's written about the relationship of Canadian multinational corporations with the bankrolling of warlords. So here we have outsiders doing things similar to what's happening with the Nande. So you see that it's a complicated picture. And so I was wondering if you thought that concentrated study of local organizations in Congo today could show the way to bottom-up methods to reconstitute the super-regional organization. Because, of course, many of these empires had bigger area than Congo today, but usually, for example, the Congo was in Angola as well as Congo, so that you saw a kind of a large sphere, but not exactly the same as today. So my question is, how do you see that these insights that you're making can contribute to a reformulation of the future of political organization in Congo?
Of course, as a scholar, I'm also Congolese. That's my hope is that at least my children or the children of my children should inherit a peaceful Congo, not the one I ran away from. So when I see this example, that's one of the things I wanted, why I wanted to study what was working in the Congo more or less. Because when I was studying even in Paris, if you see an image of Africa, it was Somalia, it was Ethiopia, even in the US, the rare time you hear about Africa, it's about war. And so I wanted to find out what was working and how could it be replicated. That's the question behind. But of course, as an anthropologist, I try to observe, to see that. But as a Congolese, now many Nanda traders are going to the east, are coming to Kinshasa. They are buying land, they are buying most of petrol stations, so they are implanting themselves there. There is a kind of cultural difference, of course, like it's involved. When I say cultural, you should see behind no essentials in these things between the West and the East. In the East, because of this Protestant education, people really respect money. In the East, nobody will give you $1. No, they invite you to eat. So money is respected, and money which is coming from trade cannot be used for food. Everybody, even all these traders have field. They go to the field to bring the beans or potatoes. But in the West, because of this NGO mentality, who bring money from outside, there is no kind of the same respect for money. Here, people just, most of the time, they just distribute. So my hope is that these people are coming. In Kinshasa, it might change the way of doing business in the center of Congo. And secondly, that was the question my supervisor and other people asked me, how long it will last? I mean, this is, but I noticed that it's going on since the 70s. The first anthropologist who went there is Janet McGarvey. Janet McGarvey wrote about the Nanda spirit of capitalism in the 80s already, after years of observation. So these things are going on. First, McGarvey's work was in the context of the mismanagement of the state by Mobutu. Economically, he destroyed the state. And these people raised this Nanda, they sustained a very wealthy economy. My work is that I show that this spirit carry on despite the war, even during the Civil War. So that's, I see that it's been already 30 years, so it's going on. But of course, these bottom-up things take time to observe, and most of the time, people who coming from outside don't have time to sit down and understand this trust relationship, how it works. So.
Thank you. Now, may I invite, yes, please.
Yes, my name is Paul Tangabomo. I'm a PhD student at Loyola in political science at Loyola University, Chicago. Thank you for your presentation. It was very insightful. But I have two questions. The first thing I want to start with is that to disagree with your way, of analyzing, or at least your conclusion, because I think that first of all, the question is you speak of trust, but when you speak of trust, you do not integrate, in the picture the population, the local population. You just speak of the priest or the bishop, who is someone who is a chief, a leader. You speak of those militia, who are also leaders, and those businessmen, who are also leaders. And there is no mention, of the population, who are actually the one suffering, from all this struggle for power, because the bishop is protecting his own power, the militia are protecting their own power, even those business people, So how do you situate? Where do you locate the commoner, in that network of trust? This is the first question. And my second, this is my point of view, is that this world is moving forward, and nowadays, since the UN recognizes, a certain number of states, and whether you like it or not, whether you belong, whether you're a nation or whether you are a tribe, that doesn't want to be integrated into a state, you belong to a state, and you have to be integrated in that state, and and obey, to the structure of that state. And this is my question: what do you think that is possible? What must be done so that those Nande people, those business people, or this particular area must be integrated, into the central government in such a way that those who are there, those who are benefiting from this mostly illegal trade, can share, with the entire nation, so as to build a kind of solid bloc, a solid nation state that can be able to resist, external aggression. These are my points.
Thank you. And about the population, the emphasis was, for me, by presenting that, to show that outside the government, you have forces which organize and which have taken over from the role the government plays. They provide security, they provide economic well-being, they provide education. So that was the emphasis. But about the population, you are right. Of course, this is not a kind of happy, let's say, happy place where things work. No, there are a lot of conflict. But what happens is that most of the time, people identify with the richest of their family. They talk about names. Even one of the points is that all these rich actually now they intermarry. You found that the traders class will marry people from traders class. So there are class division inside. But what I've noticed is that because the traders are completely embedded in the web of relation in the community, they are part of that community. I could be, let's say, a cousin, a very far cousin of the trader, but I have this name. So I'm happy to belong to that name. So you find all the people have this, of course, some people don't have, But what you see is that there is a strong kind of sense of belonging to one who has name. Of course, you will see, let's say, shopkeepers. They are paid, I think, $20 a month. That's not enough. They're exploited. But the shopkeeper who gains $20 a month, you see him after 3 months to buy a car. Ask him what's wrong. And you ask, say, no. When things will come from Dubai, the boss will put a price. But I have my price for people. Who will sell to you something for $10, you sell to $15. And every time, little by little. The boss knows it. They are not stupid. But they say, we let it go because that's the only way to just continue. So there is a kind of, in my work, I say that this is a kind of sort of neoliberalism where we say, okay, we don't need the state to intrude into our relationship. But if you put yourself in the position of the exploited, you could see that there is a kind of more acceptable situation than the central government. Look at where Kinshasa is. It's here. These people take advantage of all this money being far away. Another example which convinced me that even local simple people, they actually are happy with this arrangement, this social arrangement. There were a wave of looting all around Congo in I think 93 and later on. But in Butembo, no building was destroyed because these two were built by people themselves or with the help of the state. That's in the population. Now, the UN and being part of the state and illegality, how do you define illegality? Actions are made illegal according to a law. And a law is kind of relation. When the conditions which make the codification of this relation, which is law, are no longer there, should the law continue? We have to pay taxes, because with our taxes we will go, we will, okay, fine. But the second leg, which have conditions, this objectification of paying tax no longer there. You pay taxes, go to a, should you, by not paying tax, is it illegal? How do you define illegality? I bring everything on this relationship, human relationship. You have conditions of codification of the law. When these conditions are no longer there, you found other conditions. So that's how I see it in my understanding of the state.
Thank you. That was a very good question. In anthropology, we have a concept that would admit your conception of the relationship of the traders to the community, and that's Salin's idea of the conical. He called it a clan, but in this case, it's not organized as a clan, not on a genealogic basis. But it means they're high-ranking people, but they directly relate to people in the bottom.